push record on that.
History.
The history of leadership theory and research. And what? What was kind of the big piece of that we really dived into and talked about?
Different power bases.
Different power bases. And so I wanted y'all to kind of just, as y'all went through the weekend, to observe things going on around y'all. Did y'all observe yourself or anyone around you using any of the power bases that we talked about on Thursday? And if so, tell us what power base you saw and then kind of give us the synopsis of what happened. Anybody remember? Think of anything? Did you catch yourself, or now if you kind of take a moment and think back to the past couple days, was there ever a time that you used a power base? Maybe with your friends or a group, or... What is power? What did we say power is?
Getting people to do what you want.
Getting people to do what you want. At any point in the past 4 days, did you do anything where you were trying to get somebody to do what you want? Okay, let's talk about it. What'd you do?
I told my son he doesn't pick up his toys and throw them in the trash.
Yeah. Did you throw them in the trash?
Some of them I did, but he picked up
Yes. Yes.
She made business.
All right, so she told her son if he didn't pick up his toys, she was throwing them in the trash. She meant business, and she threw them in the trash. What power base is that? Let me get some chocolate. I heard half of it. Coercive. All right, so that's one of our 5. Okay, what's another? What's something else y'all tried to get someone to do in the past 4 days? And what's the power base you used to do it?
I didn't do this, but I feel like my boss, she bribed us with candy if we brought her a phone charger.
Ah.
That worked yesterday. She said, if someone brings me a phone charger to work, I will give them.
Okay, so if someone, reward. Boss said, I need a phone charger, my phone's dying. Whoever can bring me a phone charger to work, I'll give them candy. What power base? Reward. Okay. So we've got 2 of the 5. What else?
So my internship is and then a portfolio at the end of it, and my supervisor over the whole internship program moved my due date, the signing date, up a week, and I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be till September, and she said, well, it wasn't, but I need it this week instead. So that's a legit power.
Legitimate power, all right? So the due date changed for her portfolio to be due. There wasn't a thing she could do about it, and she's got to do what the supervisor says, right? That was use of legitimate power. Very good. Okay. Anybody have a good example of the other 2? Which ones are we missing? Referent.
So my little sister and I were going skiing in November with our parents, and my stepdad, that's his daughter, she wants a really, really nice skiing jacket. And it was like kind of referent, kind of coercive. She was like, well, I want like so-and-so jacket. And he was like, okay, so. And she was like, well, Christina and I will gang up on you because we love you and we really want these jackets.
So she was really touching at that relationship between her and her dad. I think that's interesting that you said it was kind of referent, kind of coercive. What do you think the difference between the 2 is?
It was kind of hard to like pull it apart, but I think like the referent was like, oh, we love you, we want these jackets, like if you do this, we won't. But if you do, there's going to be a large snowball fight. Like,
yeah. So there's kind of this idea of like what's the motive behind it, right? And usually if manipulation's part of it, it's probably more on the coercive side than it is on the referent side. But great example. So referent is all about touching into the respect and the relationship that someone has. What's our last one?
Expert.
Expert. So anybody have an example of expert?
So we came into Union Express
Yeah.
the other day. So I work there, and typically it's usually just me working there. But when I walked in 2 days ago, it was the director of all dining services and my main boss working on the register, and they both just turned to me and they're like, we don't know what needs to be done. He has a $40 charge that's negative because somehow he managed to mess up their computer that much. So I had to basically go in there and clean everything up and tell them what to do, and because neither of them knew how to do anything because their management.
So it was almost the lack of their expert, that they could still tell you what to do, but that didn't necessarily mean that...
Yeah, they had power over me, but I was like, I'm in charge. I know what to do.
I like it. That's a great one. So, expert power. Now, there was a sixth power base that we said we're not going to focus so much on it, but that it kind of came up later in leadership theory and research. What was that sixth one? Information power. Okay. Awesome. So, while y'all were kind of doing the same the past few days, finding examples of power bases and maybe how you use them, or you started to kind of pick up how other people use them. Remember, power is all about getting people to do what you want, which is ultimately influence. And so you've kind of got to decide what type of power are you going to use. Is it going to be more on that positive influence side, or is it going to be more on that coercive, manipulative side to get people to do what you want? I was kind of doing the same thing, and I really nerded out, and I love when stuff like this happens. Y'all may not appreciate this as much as I do, but I'm in a class this semester called Adult Learning Theory. So what is different about teaching adults versus teaching an 8-year-old, right? And this book that we're reading, Powerful Techniques for Teaching Adults. Well, I thought this is going to be all about like teaching methods, right? How many of y'all maybe know a little bit about teaching methods or things to do well, not do well in classes? The whole first chapter, guess what it's on? Power. And I remember in class on Thursday we talked about the fact that teachers can have power, that your instructors, faculty members can have power. So I want to kind of read 2 paragraphs to you. I'm going to read one, we're going to talk about it, read the second one, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. Power is present when teachers' actions get in the way of learning. Welcome to class, Calvin. As happens when they say they will do one thing, such as encourage all ideas to be expressed, and then do something entirely different, such as using sarcasm, ridicule, or shaming to make it clear which opinions they find noteworthy. My high school headmaster used his power in an overt and physical way when he canned me for entering school premises before classes started one freezing cold winter's morning in 1964. Not me, the author. I wasn't even thought of then, except by God. Educators and trainers can create the conditions in which people feel empowered to take chances, challenge authority, disagree, or come up with original analyses. They can also turn learning spaces into dead zones of mind-numbing busy work, in which people's creativity is exercised for the sole purpose of finding new ways to manage the boredom. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that thought? About the power that teachers can have? Do y'all have any examples that go along with what they've said? When teachers' actions get in the way of learning. Have y'all ever had a teacher who got in the way of your learning? How?
It's just like the math teachers in high school. When you learn in a certain way and it's not how they want to do, you struggle on the exams because you can't do it how it's best for you.
Mm-hmm. So there's really no flexibility. It's either you do it steps 1 through 5 or that's it. How else?
Or it's like a high school math teacher that's more worried about their second job, which is being a coach, than actual in the classroom. So they change their learning ways of what they really find necessary or most likely important to learn.
So how does that get in the way of your learning?
When I came to college, I had no algebra.
Didn't know algebra. All right, those of y'all wanting to be ag teachers, if all you care about are the kids who are showing cows on the weekend, could you be getting in the way of other kids learning in the classroom during the week? that one gets close. And I say that as a kid who grew up showing cattle. All right. What about, have y'all ever had teachers who they say they encourage all ideas to be expressed, but then they're just sarcastic and rude?
Yeah.
Y'all, I have had this. I've had it happen as a PhD student. Like, I have been sitting in classes and have said something and then felt like a complete and utter idiot just for saying my opinion, which was asked for, and then being essentially ridiculed, right? Like, how does that make you feel?
It definitely doesn't make you want to say anything ever again.
Yeah. You should feel powerless, right? It's like the total opposite of empowered, right? I like where it says educators and trainers can create conditions in which people feel empowered to take chances, challenge authority, disagree, or come up with original analyses. So something to kind of think about too when you go through classes. Like, sometimes some of the most frustrating classes we can have are those ones where maybe they're making you think different than what you normally think, and you're like, oh my gosh, this liberal person, right? But really, that's kind of their job, is to get you to think, right? Get you to think critically about stuff. But I also like that it's helping you realize in any instance that what you do, how you choose to use your power in the classroom can also create these ideas like just busy work, mind-numbing. It keeps students from wanting to learn. On the flip side, here's the next paragraph. Adult learners, or students, think of yourself, exercise power when they suggest examples that clarify a concept or illustrate a principle, helping a discussion gather momentum. They support each other in powerful ways, building confidence, providing encouragement, and coming up with illustrations that explain complex ideas. Their power can also stop teachers dead in their tracks when they simply refuse to ask or answer questions. Every teacher knows the panic of ending an explanation, asking for questions, and being met by total silence. Does this mean students have understood everything, or that they are completely confused? Are they just uninterested, or are they intimidated? Is their silence an act of resistance? What's resistance? What's that from Thursday? Okay, this is kind of funny. We're talking about a reaction to power. Yes. All right, so is there resistance or apathy? Are they initiating a performance strike, or are they uncertain of what participation in class looks like? In a meeting, leaders can similarly be stymied by a lack of participation. No matter how much positional authority you may enjoy, you can feel your power slipping away as you introduce a new agenda item at a meeting, only to be met by averted gazes, slumped shoulders, or glazed eyes. So have y'all ever thought about the power y'all have as a student in class? What are some ways y'all have exercised your power in class? Evaluations, tell me about it.
We pretty much did.
Yeah.
I guess the student body as a whole controls how well other students.
So it's so interesting that you say that, evaluation, because the end of this chapter actually goes into this discussion of, if we know our jobs as teachers is sometimes to do the unpopular things that are going to make the learning process better, sometimes we may be met with criticism by students because they don't like what we're asking them to do. So how do we stick true to what we believe is best in the educational process and be authentic, while also realizing that our evaluations are going to matter? So there's kind of this like lose-lose situation sometimes for teachers. But it's true. Students exercise their power through those student evaluations. They mean a lot when it comes to annual reviews for faculty. What else? What are other ways you exercise your power as a student?
Like how it was saying, like how you react to things, and like if you're engaged, because if you're just like sitting here and you're not doing anything, or if you're like on your computer the whole time working on something else, I'm sure the instructor can tell that you're not into it and you're not picking up anything.
Absolutely. So we already mentioned that, kind of reviewing, one of the reactions to power is that people are going to be resistant, right? And which one of these 5 are more likely to lead to resistance? Coercive, legitimate, expert. Okay? What's another reaction to power? So when you as a student or me as a teacher use power in the classroom, what's the reaction that could happen? Compliance, right? So you're at least doing what you say. What usually leads to compliance? Which one of the power bases? Referent, reward, information. Right. Can coercive lead to compliance? Heck yeah. I don't want to be punished. And then what's another? Huh? Commitment. Okay. And which power bases influence commitment the most? And what else? Reward? To an extent, yeah. Okay. So it's kind of interesting just to think about. You may have no desire to be a teacher, so don't think when I talk about teachers and those examples that I'm just referring to those in the room wanting to teach, because at some point in time, if you're working with people, you're oftentimes teaching or learning is always happening. And so if you start to notice, okay, you're sitting at a board meeting for a co-op and nobody's talking or engaging, they're just listening to the big head talk. What's that probably a sign of? Resistance or compliance, right? So if you were that big head talking up front, you can kind of be thinking about, how's my power coming off to them? How's my influence? Maybe I need to change my strategy just a little bit. So kind of something for you to think about. All right. I have here, you know what? We're going to skip over that for time's sake. I have an article that if we have time at the end, we may read together that gives another good example of power kind of in the workplace. But before we do that, we're going to take our first quiz. So this is closed note, closed book. All you need now is a pencil. Okay. Candy, will you help me hand these out? 5 questions, pretty short and sweet, just over chapter 1. Who else needs one? Everybody else got one?